Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of Hunt's Corner Hunter. This will be part 7 of our How to Turkey Hunt series, and today we're going to talk about the actual hunt itself and how you're going to conduct yourself on a hunt. So let's suppose it is opening morning of turkey season and you've not roasted a turkey the night before, and we'll talk about roosting a little bit in a later video. And you're out here opening morning, what do? Well, the first thing is you want to be at a place where you can listen for a turkey gobbling. You're going to have to hear one gobble in order to move to him, and if you haven't put one to bed the night before, you're going to have to get it up somewhere where you can hear one. And there are several good places you want to set up and listen. Where we are, for example, right here, we're on the top of a hill. This is a hilltop, and it's the highest land for about half a mile in every direction. I've got a ridge over here that drops off down into a creek bottom. If there's a turkey down in that creek bottom anywhere, I can hear him. There's a field over here behind me, and if there's a turkey anywhere along the edge of that field, I can hear him. And there's a field over here, and I can hear anything that's roosted along the edge of that field. There's also a ridge over here and another creek, and if there's a turkey over there, I can hear him. So right here, this is the center of the property. It's the highest point in the property, and I can hear a turkey in any direction. Where I don't want to try to listen is I don't want to be close to a highway because you'll hear cars going by making noise. I don't want to be close to a stream because water makes noise as it flows along, and that can interfere with your ability to hear. You also don't want to be down in a hollow or, for example, down in a valley where you can't hear outside of that valley. That's going to really interfere with your ability to hear a turkey gobble. You want to be up high, and you want to be somewhere a little bit open. Bart Owl just called. No turkey answered him. So we want to be here. There he goes again. We're about a week out from turkey season, so I'm listening to this owl in case there's one gobbles in answer to him. So what we want to do is we want to be here well before daylight. We want to be here in the black dark. We've left our truck a quarter of a mile away, walked in the dark, and we're standing here in our listening post. First thing we're going to do is listen for them owls. And listen, and when those owls start calling, maybe a turkey will gobble and answer. I will listen for about 15, 20 minutes, and that's most of what I'm going to do is stand here and do this. We don't hear anything gobble after 20 minutes. Maybe then I get out my owl call, blow on it, and see if I can't shock one into gobbling. If, let's say we've come here, it's opening morning, stood here, didn't hear anything, blew an owl call, and the turkey gobbles, and he sounds like he's 300 yards that way. What do you do now? Okay. This is where your knowledge of the terrain is going to come in handy. For example, I know that this ridge here runs at least a half mile that way. If I think that turkey is 300 yards that way, he's probably somewhere along this ridge top. What I want to do is move in his direction as soon as possible. As soon as I've decided I'm going to that bird, I'm going to start in his direction. As I get closer, he will hopefully gobble again, and that's going to allow me to fine-tune his location a little more. Is he up on top of this ridge? Is he off on the side? Is he out in the swamp? What do I think he's going to do? Do I think he's going to fly down and come out in this big pasture? Is he going to fly off into the swamp somewhere? All of these things we'll have to decide, and I want to try to get close, but this early in the season, I don't want to get too close. There's not much foliage on the trees right now, so I don't want to get right on top of him. Say 200 yards max. Now, if it's the last weekend of the season and there was full foliage on the trees, I can't hear as far. He's a lot closer than I think he is because of the foliage. I might would get 100, 150 yards from him. Right now, say opening weekend, we're going to try 200, maybe 225, 250 yards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move down there. I'm going to set up on the edge of this field along this ridge top, and we're going to look for a place to set up real quick. Keep in mind that that turkey's in the tree gobbling the whole time. Let's go take a look, see if we can't find a place to set up. So let's say we have now come down the ridge a couple of 100 yards. We've got the field at our back, and the hilltop drops off in front of us into the creek bottom. And it sounds like the turkey is gobbling 200 yards straight away in front of us. Now, where do we set up? Notice there's a flat bench. An owl's still calling. There's a flat bench about 100 yards down in front of me. That's an ideal place for a turkey to strut. And if we can set up where we can look down on that bench, that would be a smart idea and would put us up above the turkey a little bit. There's also a clearing over there in the woods. There's also a really big oak tree back here that would be an ideal place to hide, but there's not much cover around the base of it. So I've got a couple options. I can try to set up at the base of that big tree. And if I were going to do that, I'd come over here and cut some of these palmetto fronds and stick them in front of me real quick. And then set up at the base of that tree. That would hide me fairly well. But the problem is, sitting at the base of that tree, I can't see down this hillside into that bench. And I really can't see well into this clearing over here. So what I'm probably going to do is, if you see this holly tree right there in front of me with a pale spot on the bark, that's probably where I'm going to set up. I would probably still come in here and cut my palmettos, and then I'm going to go over here and set them up around me in the base of that tree. If you notice, that tree is kind of in the shade. It's got some low-hanging branches. If I sit there, I can see down into this bench, and I can kind of see back over into this clearing off to my left. So let's walk over here and see if we can't make a setup real quick. Okay, so we put up some palmetto fronds around us. We've got a clear view of that clearing over here. We've got a clear view of this ridge here. And let's say our turkey's about 200 yards this way, out into the swamp, up in the tree, gobbling. So what are we going to do? We're going to get our face mask and our gloves on. We're going to get out our call. This early, I'd probably use a mouth diaphragm. I'll pop it in. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen. I want to make sure that turkey is still gobbling and he's still where I think he is. I'm also listening for the sound of other turkeys that might be around him. Is there another gobbler out here that might come in quietly on the side? Is there hens nearby that might cut him off? I'm going to listen for all of this. If I don't hear anything, if I don't hear any gobbling, I might give some of those tree yelps we talked about in the turkey call video, just a couple of them, real soft, just kind of like a turkey waking up in the morning. If the turkey is out here gobbling and it's now light enough, I can kind of see the colors on the leaves on the trees. It's not daylight yet, but it's getting on up a little bit from, say, first light. I'll make a series of loud, clear yelps. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm in the woods. It's almost turkey season, and I don't believe in calling turkeys before the season starts. But I'm going to give a series of, say, regular plain yelps. If I'm lucky, the gobbler will fire off back at me. And let's say he does, and he's 200 yards that way. Okay, great. Now what do? Nothing. Sit still, wait about 10 minutes before you call again and see what he does. You can give a couple of series of yelps, but don't sit there and call nonstop, and don't sit there and call every time he gobbles. If you do that, he's going to stay up there in that tree and wait on you to come to him. You got to play hard to get just a little bit. While I'm doing all this, I'm also continuously listening. Are there other turkeys around me? Are there hens coming this way? How is that going to change my strategy on how I work this bird? Now, the turkey's going to usually, this early in the season, sit up there in that tree and gobble until his hens show up. Let's say you've sat here and he's gobbled for about 30 minutes. You hear him fly down. one of two things is going to happen now. If he's got those hens with him, he's going to go off with them, usually off to a side or something. And if he does that, you'll know it because you'll call at him and you'll get a gobble, but his gobbles are going to get further and further away. That's one scenario. The other scenario is he flies down, you call at him, and you hear nothing. Okay. If that turkey is flown down and you never hear another peep, get your gun up. Because a lot of times when they fly down and they're coming in, they come in quietly. This may be a bird that's not the dominant bird, but he's a mature bird. He's heard your calling, he's hit the ground, and he's on his way. All right, get your gun up. He may be about to pop out any time now. Sometimes he'll fly down and gobble, and you'll hear him slowly coming in your direction. Again, as long as he's coming towards you, get your gun up, get ready. He could be in sight before you know it. You could still have an opportunity for a hen to come by and lead him off, but right now you've got him coming, so just get ready and be ready to shoot him when he pops out. But more likely than not, this early in the season, he's going to fly down, he's going to get with hens, and you're going to hear him slowly start gobbling off in another direction as those hens lead him off. What do? All right, well, now you've got to come up with a plan to get in front of him. And this happens more often than not. So let's say our turkey who was out here flew down and is now going off this way. Okay, this is where your knowledge of the terrain comes in again. We've got a logging road that comes around over here and goes around the bottom of this hill. If he's flown down and headed that way, he might be following those hens down that logging road. Or maybe he's off this side of the hill somewhere. What am I going to do? I'm going to grab my stuff and I'm going to head down this ridge top and try to get out in front of him. Now, you're going to have to do it in a little bit of a hustle. But at the same time, you can't bust any other turkeys that might be coming along. So before you take off after him, listen and make sure there's nothing else going on. Make sure there's not a satellite gobbler that's coming down this ridge gobbling every 5 minutes headed your way. If that's the case, don't worry about him. You worry about this one. You're going to have to kind of play the strategy and see what happens. You know, if the only bird you got's that one, then you need to get around in front of him and see what you can do. But if you've got 5 other turkeys out here gobbling and that one leaves, what are they about to do? Are they coming your way? Wait on them. So let's assume for a moment that you're going to chase this bird. You're going to have to find a way to get out in front of him and set up and ambush him as he walks by. You might be able to purr and cluck those hens to you, but more likely than not, you're going to just have to sit there and hope they come by you. That's part of the difficulty of hunting this early in the season and part of what makes turkey hunting so fun. Okay, so let's continue with our scenario that you've got the gobbler. He's gobbled on the roost. He's hit the ground and now he's quiet. You need to be ready. That turkey is probably on his way. And this is the exact scenario that I killed a turkey with last year. It was late in April. There was a lot of foliage on the tree, and I'd set up about 150 yards from the turkey. Him and the 3 gobblers with him sat up there and gobbled in the tree for an hour. But all of a sudden, after about an hour of steady gobbling, they shut up. There was still one gobbling way in the background, but the one up close to me, who had been about 150 yards away all morning up in the tree, shut up. That tells me he's flown down. He's probably on his way. So what do? I sat, I waited, I called every once in a while, maybe every 15 minutes, just to let him know I'm in the area and I'm still here. While I'm doing all this, I'm constantly listening for, do I hear him walking through the woods? Because a turkey walking through the woods sounds a lot like a man walking through the woods. I'm looking. I'm listening. Do I hear him spitting and drumming? You know that, do I hear that? I'm looking. The thing that's going to probably give him away most of all is either you see his feathers moving or you're going to see that old head sticking up and it's going to be glowing like an incandescent light bulb. So let's say you're sitting here and all of a sudden, okay, down here on this ridge top, you see his head pop up. Okay, now's the time. You need to be ready to make that shot. You can't go moving while he's in sight. So by this point, you should have your gun up. You should have your face down on the stock. What do? Well, you need to make sure you're lined up on him and get the sights. So wait till the turkey goes behind a tree. There's plenty of trees out here. If he steps behind a tree, make your final adjustment. Now stay on the turkey, and with he's in range, shoot him. If you made a good shot and you work with your shotgun like we talked about earlier, he'll go down. Once he goes down, I recommend you immediately reload and advance to the turkey and make sure he's dead. I have gotten to many a turkey and had them jump up at the last minute, and I had to put in a follow-up shot. So be ready, and you know, if it works out, you've got your bird. If for some reason he jumps up and runs off, put a finisher in him. It doesn't happen often, but you need to be ready just in case it does. With the new ammo we got, it's not as big of a problem as it used to be. The old days, you used to walk up there with the turkey and then stand on his head to make me quit flopping. Now, they usually die pretty quick. If you've gotten to that point, congratulations. You've achieved what I think is one of the hardest feats in turkey hunting. Now let's move on to another scenario. Okay, let's look at another common turkey hunting scenario. Let's say it's a Tuesday afternoon. I don't have to pick up Miss Olivia from school. We don't have church tonight. I've gotten off for work. I want to come out here and sit around this field and see if I can't get a turkey to come to me hanging around in the afternoon and call him up. How am I going to approach this? Well, as I approach this field and I walk in, I'm not just going to boldly walk out here in this field. I'm going to ease into this field with my binoculars, and I'm going to check this whole field carefully. I'm going to look around the edges. I'm going to look around the trees. I'm going to look out in this grass and see if I can spot a turkey before he spots me. Especially in the afternoons on the, say, the shady side of a field, you may have turkeys loitering in the field edge. So I want to spot him before he spots me. Now, having done that, if I don't see a turkey, but maybe I think there's turkeys coming through this way on the way in the afternoon, maybe they're headed to roost, maybe they're just feeding through it, maybe they're just coming around and strutting every so often in the afternoon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a place. If I can find some sign, that's that much the better. And I'm going to find a good place over here in this edge of this field where I can get set up and call for a while. So let's walk over here and see if we can find a place. So when I'm picking a place to set up, especially like on an afternoon hunt where I'm going to sit on the edge of a field and wait and call every once in a while and see if a turkey comes by, I don't want to set up somewhere that gives me, leaves me exposed to the whole world. Take this pine tree out here in front of us. This is a nice pine tree. And it's in the shade. And I can sit here and see this whole field, and I can sit here all afternoon and be comfortable. But the whole world can see me at the same time. And I don't consider this a good place to set up. A better place would be to back up over here, this other pine tree. You got a little bit of cover in front of you. You got some limbs and stuff piled up, and if I get back over in there, I can just about disappear. Why? Just by backing up an additional 10 yards, which doesn't limit my ability to shoot. I can still see to shoot this field, but I've got enough cover now. I can sit over there and be hid, and nothing's going to know I'm even in the vicinity. Where you set up probably causes more trouble than anything else with turkey hunting besides calling too much. You set up, in the wrong place, and you've already set yourself up for failure the moment you do it. So don't just set up anywhere. Stop, think about it, and pick a place that's going to offer you some concealment. Yes, you want to be able to see a little bit, but you don't want to be so exposed that, you're constantly going to have absolutely still. You're exposed. Any turkey in the world can see you. I don't want to set up over here where I got the sun shining on me, because that's going to make me stand out. I want to have at least a tree that's big enough to kind of break me out against it, and I want some cover, even these trees laying on the ground. That gives me enough cover to break up my outline, where if I were sitting over there on that pine tree, I completely disappear, whereas if I was sitting right here, I'm exposed to the whole world. Pick your setup carefully, and that will go a whole lot farther towards making you a successful turkey hunter. So if we're out here set up on an afternoon hunt, and we're going to sit here, we're going to call and see if we can catch a gobbler coming by. Maybe he's drifting around the field feeding. Maybe he's making his way back to a roost, or maybe there's a strutting area he comes by and checks. What I will do there is I will probably sit quietly and call maybe as much as every 10 minutes, but maybe it might be every 20 minutes. It doesn't matter as much. What you're trying to do is catch the interest of a gobbler that's coming by that area. Usually you're going to do this, maybe you're sitting around a field, especially if it's windy like this afternoon, where when it's windy the sound doesn't carry as well. Set up around the field. Maybe you get you a box call, a good loud box call that carries a ways. Get something like this box call and do some loud yelps and see if you can get a turkey's attention. And any time I'm going to set up and call, I'm usually going to start off softly. You usually don't want to come out the gate going, wide open, loud, lots of cuts and excited calling. I don't start with that. I don't do it first thing in the morning. I don't do it up in the day. I don't do it in the afternoon. I may occasionally do some loud cutting on a box call if I'm walking around a property trying to strike up a gobbler, maybe midday or early afternoon. I'm trying to get his attention. Yeah, I might get loud on this thing. But if I'm going to set up on the edge of a field and try to work a gobbler in, I'm not going to start off loud. I'm going to start off softly. Maybe I use a slate to start with, or a mouth diaphragm. Give it 20 minutes, try it again. If he doesn't answer, then I might go to the box and get a little loud and see if I can get his attention. And all of this, you're going to learn a lot just from experience. Experience is a better teacher than anything that I can do, and that will teach you what's going to work for you and what's going to not work. And that's the whole point of all this. It's a lot of fun to turkey hunt, but you learn as you go. And you'll get more from getting out there in the field. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. That's how you learn, is making mistakes. And as long as you're out there and you're applying the lessons you've learned from the last trip, you're moving in the right direction. Turkey hunting is increasingly difficult because of problems with turkey populations, competition from other hunters, but it is still extremely exciting. I don't know of any other sport where you have as much interaction with a big game animal, except maybe elk hunting in the Rockies during the rut. Beyond that, I can't think of anything that's exciting. And I think you'll find that once you got into this, it's highly addictive. Having said that, get out there, go, try, learn from your mistakes, and in time, you too can be a successful turkey hunter. I hope this whole series of videos has shed some light on this subject. There's a whole lot more we could talk about, and indeed I'll touch on some other stuff in smaller videos in the months to come. But I hope this will serve as a foundation and as an inspiration for you to get out there and try your hand at turkey hunting. If you're an old hand, I hope you're getting back into the sport and enjoying it more than ever. If you're new, I welcome you to the sport. If I can be of any assistance to you, leave a comment below. If you've liked these videos, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. As always, I thank you, our viewers, for watching. And until next time, have a good one.